This is the new MG4. It's the first electric car from MG in the UK that isn't based on a model that also uses an internal combustion engine. It's been designed from the ground up as an EV. With no petrol engine or gearbox to find room for, MG's designers have been able to make it look a lot more funky and futuristic than the traditional looking MG5 or ZS. It's also a lot more spacious inside than an MG5 and very similar in terms of space, design and interior packaging to a Volkswagen ID.3 or Coupe Born. Now, whether you like this car or not rather much depends on what cereals you buy. Confused? Well, let's take cornflakes as an example. The default is to buy this one with the big red rooster on the front. I did that this morning and it cost me £1.99, but I also found the supermarket own brand, also cornflakes, a slightly bigger box, and those cost me 95p. So if the cars were the cornflakes, this is the ID.3 and this is the MG4. So you get more and it's cheaper and they taste pretty much the same. Or do they? See, that's the big question. Is the MG4 really representing good value for money, or has it been built down to a price? There are two trim levels, SE and Trophy. SE is the more basic of the two, but still gets plenty of equipment, including adaptive cruise control with lane keep assist and auto high beam headlights, plus Apple CarPlay and Android Auto connectivity. Trophy cars, meanwhile, get built-in sat-nav, heated seats and steering wheel, and an electrically adjustable driver's seat, wireless phone charging, and a 360-degree parking camera. This is SE spec, which we could argue looks a little bit dowdy. If you prefer something a bit more glitzy, then go for the Trophy model, because that gets a smart looking rear spoiler just here and a contrasting roof colour, which really works well with this car. And it still offers good value because it's about £5,000 cheaper than the Volkswagen ID.3 at £31,500. Go for the cheapest model and it will cost you less than £26,000, which makes it more than £10,000 cheaper than the base model ID.3 and £3,000 less than the cheapest Vauxhall Corsa E, which is a smaller car. In terms of battery pack, you can either go for a 51 kilowatt hour battery pack, which has an official range of 218 miles, or you can go for a 64 kilowatt hour battery pack, which has an official range of 281 miles in SE trim, which is this car, and 270 miles in Trophy trim, which is our preferred one. This car is a long range, so it has a 204 horsepower motor, which is enough for 0 to 60 in 7.9 seconds. The standard range model produces slightly less power at 170 horsepower, but is lighter, so can sprint from 0 to 60 in 7.7 seconds. Charging can be done in up to 125 kilowatts, which is about the same as a Volkswagen ID.3 and Coupe Born, and is much, much better than the 76 kilowatt of the Kia Niro EV. So if you can find a fast enough charger, you can get about 200 miles in less than half an hour. Connect it to a home charger meanwhile, and you should get an 80% charge in around 7 or 8 hours. For your money, you certainly do get a decent sized boot. It's a little bit smaller than the Volkswagen ID.3s, but it is bigger than both the Peugeot 208e and Vauxhall Corsa E. Thing is, where am I going to put these charging cables? I'd like to put them underneath here, but there's no space. So I have to go there instead. But you can just start to see where MG is saving the money back here. The fabric cutouts for the rear seat latches look unfinished, for example. The hooks for the parcel shelf seem really flimsy, and some of the bodywork around the boot doesn't exactly exude solidity. Hop in the back seats and you'll find that it is fine. There's a USB port, which is useful, and a flat floor if you're going to have 3 people sitting side by side. Other than that, it's quite plain and there's not even an armrest. Up front, things are somewhat more impressive. This slimline dash design with the tablet-style central touchscreen and digital driver's display is absolutely up-to-the-minute stuff. And as for storage, well, there's plenty of it. There's a cup holder there and some stowage there with 2 more cup holders. And in here, it's actually quite big. We've got a snack, a pair of trousers and a doll. All that will go back in there. And then the glove box is not the biggest in its class, but it still manages to house these 2 things. The user experience for the touchscreen and digital driver display isn't the most intuitive we've seen though. For example, the multifunction toggle switches on the steering wheel are a little complicated and you can end up scrolling through chip computer data instead of adjusting the stereo volume, which is rather annoying. And although the volume controls can be accessed through a physical button here, the air conditioning controls can only be accessed through the touchscreen, which is a little bit fiddly and difficult to use while on the move. The whole system is very configurable though, especially the central touchscreen, so it's worth taking a little time to set it up to best suit your needs. And in truth, it's no less intuitive than the systems of many other manufacturers. We actually think it's more usable than the infotainment system in the Volkswagen ID.3. What's not as good as an ID.3 or Cupra Born or Skoda Enyaq is the interior quality. These plastics just feel a little brittle and not quite as good quality as those found in the cars I've just mentioned. It's not bad, it's just, it could be a bit better. And that's enough poking at bits of plastic. Let's see what it's like to drive. On the road, the MG4 feels agile, lively and keen to change direction. And that's because the rear motor is driving the rear wheels. So at the front, it's lighter because there's no weight over the front wheels or very little weight. And all the front wheels have to do is steer. In fact, you can even feel the drive going to the back wheels and pushing you out of the corners. Relatively soft suspension settings also help the MG4 feel grippy in corners, as the nose of the car is happy to turn into a corner rather than skating and bouncing as more stiffly sprung cars tend to do, especially front-engine, front-wheel drive ones. Another benefit of this is a smooth and supple ride. A little less impressive is the occasional bassy shudder you can feel over certain types of potholes when the suspension is under load going around a corner. Also, while it's great that adaptive cruise control is standard across the range, the fact that you have to switch it on by delving into the touchscreen submenus is a bit of a faff. What's more, the lane keep assist won't keep you centred in your lane, as well as some similar setups from other manufacturers. That said, the MG4 is still a decent motorway cruiser. It's quiet and stable at motorway speeds, and it's got a seamlessly punchy acceleration away from roundabouts and down slip roads. It's impressively fuel efficient too. It's getting on for winter now, and EVs tend to lose some efficiency in colder weather. But we've seen figures of around 3 to 3.5 miles per kilowatt hour. That means a real-world range of 220 miles in the winter, and in the summer you could easily achieve the car's official 281-mile range with a bit of careful driving. If you're price conscious, then it's hard to argue against the MG4. Whether you see it as a more practical rival to the likes of a Peugeot E208 or a Vauxhall Corsa E, or a discounted alternative to a Volkswagen ID.3, then it makes a really compelling case for itself. It's also great to drive and reasonably energy efficient, only adding to its appeal. But what do you think? Let us know in the comments below. And if you're considering buying an MG4 or indeed any electric car, head to CarGurus.co.uk to find loads of great cars for sale from top-rated dealers, and with our super clever pricing technology, we'll even tell you whether it's a good deal or not.